Welcome to ASSAT Analysts, the debate game show where the points definitely matter and we take things way too seriously. My name is Josh Johnson, and I'm joined here with my roommates, Nathaniel Jackson.
Yo.
And Kyle Jennis.
Howdy.
Stay tuned to find out who truly is the king of pulling random facts and arguments right out of their ass. Heyo! Welcome to our bullshitter episode. Today we are talking about the best and most historically accurate Halloween monster.
Yeah.
So let's have Nate start off. What was your choice here that you're pegging for this one?
I picked the witches.
Which?
Which we are not sponsored by, but we would like to be. So
wait, which would you get at which?
Which would you go to?
Probably the one in the UTC food court.
Ooh. We're also not
Which
sponsored
actually
by
might
UTC,
not be there
but
anymore.
It's not. I don't think.
Oh, shoot. Aged myself again.
Rip.
Oh, man.
All right, so Kyle, what'd you pick?
I went with The Mummy. Not the movie The Mummy, the monster The Mummy. Also
Okay.
not sponsored.
All right, well, so my pick for this one is demons. Plural. Nathaniel, really quickly,
So-
can you hit us with an updater on what the bullshitter episode actually is?
Yeah. So real quick, one of us is the bullshitter. They were not allowed to do any research into the answer to this topic. The other two are researchers, so they are allowed to do as much research. Well, not as much research. We're trying to limit it a little bit because it can be a little too obvious. But they get to do research. And we have Teddy, our wonderful guest. Teddy, say hi.
Hello.
Who is going to try and snuff out who the BSer is. At the end of it, we will all guess and try and find out. None of us know who it is. That's pretty much it.
Well, one of us know who it is.
Well, one of us. Yeah,
But-
whoever the
So
bullshitter is.
if you correctly,
No one knows who it is.
If you correctly finger the bullshitter, then you get 1 point. And if the bullshitter remains unknown, then they get 3 points.
Yep.
So that's the essence of the game here.
Dun.
And now we're going to go ahead and jump into the arguments.
Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and lead us off. So I think if you look at the three options, I was kind of hoping you guys would screw up and pick something like vampire or, something that's a little bit more based in lore than actual historical accounts.
Sorry to
so
disappoint.
Is that why you watched Vampire Diaries this week?
I needed inspiration, all right?
Gotcha.
So here's the thing. I think the way that this is going to go down is it's going to probably go off of portrayal of these monsters. So how, where all of them are historically accurate to a certain point. I think of the three options, personally, in my opinion, demon is going to be the hardest one to argue because demons more often than not are thought of as a religious being, and not all people believe in that. So, that will be a little bit tougher, in my opinion, to argue. But for the most part, all three of these, have a lot of historical context wrapped around them. So I think it's whoever wins this is probably going to be whoever can convince the others that the portrayal of their monster is the most accurate to the source material.
Okay.
All right. Well, now that we've established what an argument is, Nathaniel, do you want to go ahead and start yours?
Yeah. All right. So I picked the witch. One of the reasons I picked a witch, so I was actually raised in the church, raised as a Christian for the most part, Teddy. And the witches are actually talked about in the Bible, specifically in one case in 1 Samuel, where King Saul is actually talking about the witch of Endor. And he wants to summon the dead for the prophet Samuel, and there's all this weird stuff. But that is one of the earliest portrayals of a witch, someone who uses, alchemy or sorcery to summon and cultivate and do all those witchy things. Then it actually goes on to throughout history. There's different examples of people using what can be called demonic forms of worship, to which, yes, does kind of lead into demons a little bit. However,
No, I think
no.
that literally means the worship of demons.
yes, it does. So exactly. Well, that's the thing. It's the worship of. So witches traditionally are thought to historically either worship demons or believe in aura around the world and living beings to be the source of all power, which sounds very Star Wars-ish. But yeah, so witches go all the way back to the Bible, all the way up to, you know, the Salem witch trials, even to, you know, the witches in the French Quarter in New Orleans, to even modern day
Wait, they had
you know,
witches?
witchcraft and stuff in
I didn't know.
modern day
I
witchcraft
learned something new,
in
all
some
right?
other third world
Come on,
countries
man.
and lesser popular areas. Populated areas. That's the word I was going for.
Why was that funny? I didn't know that was a thing. I learned something new.
I'm sorry.
Or did I?
I'm just baffled by the fact that Kyle's never heard of the witches of the French Quarter. But anyways, yeah. So like Nathaniel mentioned, demons also, you know, play a part in the Bible. They're the ones that kind of are the inhabitants of hell and deal with kind of the tortures of that. They've been involved in or shown as records of other religions as well. And, you know, they are basically the bad spirits that account for, you know, kind of the evil side of the struggle of good and evil. And sorry, Teddy's leaning in to really make sure he can hear me. But you know, they have shown, been depicted of showing powers of human possession, of being kind of the, you know, when you depict the angel and the devil kind of on your shoulders, telling you, you know, what you should and shouldn't do. They are the ones that are kind of depicted as that, of tempting you to do things that you know are wrong, but you want to do anyways.
Well, it's like a selfish kind of thing, isn't it? Maybe.
Well, selfishness is one of the aspects, but yeah, or just commit evil acts, in however you personally would define evil.
I would turn over every single coffee mug in the store. I'm just kidding.
All right, yeah, that would be evil. But yes, so they've been depicted as that. There's also the talk about inner demons, of that every individual has one demon that's following them around and is, you know, making them belittle themselves, tempting them into evil, and you know, genuinely in the overall universal struggle of good and evil, they are the foot soldiers that are provoking evil acts and making the world as shit as it is.
Okay.
When was the when's the first like documented account of demons, if that's possible? Is there like a written account of anything like that? I'm just curious.
Not to answer for Josh, but honestly, I don't think there probably is, because demon lore, however you want to say that,
wasn't
is
defined until.
well, it's involved in so many different
I mean, like-
religious backgrounds,
And also, it's like even before Christianity, it's like in Greek mythology.
yeah, there's demons.
Like there's demons in there, so
Yeah, it's
and
such a
Norse
broad
mythology
spectrum
and-
that in order to answer that, I would really have to narrow it down to a specific mythology for demons.
And really, honestly, you can probably track demons. They're probably the oldest. They are the oldest of the three monsters we have chosen. And you can probably track them back all the way to, you know, Sumerians and the beginning
Realistically, human creation.
Yeah, the beginning
that's fair.
of written history, because I'm sure they were involved in that in some way.
Speaking of old, the first mummies are dated back to about 2800 BC. So I guess I'll kind of get started about mummies. Basically, the word derives from, I think it's an old Latin word that literally just means embalmed corpse, which if that's not spooky or deathly enough, I don't know what is. But basically, they originally started as a way of preserving the body to transition into the afterlife. And eventually, about 200 or so years later, into I think it was the 4th ancient Egyptian dynasty or something, is when it became like a real wealth symbol and everything. So only the wealthy could be, wrapped up and preserved in these obviously complicated chambers, which were literally just dug into the earth and everything. So, and actually one interesting thing was they would actually drill a hole, well, not drill, but like make a hole somewhere into the cranial cavity so that the brain would actually like just leak out. And all that would be left is just the body of this person just perfectly preserved under wrapping. That's pretty spooky if you ask me.
It is.
Well,
I don't want my brain to be dripped out, but
well,
Oh, it was in the nose. It was in the nose.
they would go through the nose so that there was
Yeah,
no
they went
damage to
up.
the skull or face.
They went all the way up through like what's it called? The nasal cavity, I guess. Just
I guess I don't really want to picture that. That's kind of gross.
Well, but that is that's
Historically
what they
accurate.
did. Yeah, that's historically accurate, which makes sense because I mean, if you're trying to preserve something, like you want to take out all of the organs that could go bad, and
yep.
realistically, the only organ that you want to remain is, if you believe in it, the heart, the eyes, and the skin, which is in itself an organ.
Yeah.
the
The
biggest
largest.
organ.
Yeah,
Exactly.
great minds think alike.
Yeah.
What I learned in high school
Anatomy.
biology. I
Yeah.
think that's it.
The dermis.
Yeah. And one of
Those ASMR fans out there.
yeah. Look at that dermis. And actually, one of the cool things. Thank you, Josh. One of the cool things about mummies is they do exist across not only ancient Egypt, but you see them depicted in the Han Dynasty in China. The same thing where it's like they've been discovered it's called the Tarim Basin. It's like a specific area in China where they've been discovered. They've also been found in the Philippines, other African countries, even in like South America where the Incan Empire had lived. Like they had their own form of mummification as well.
Well, so
So
I mean,
a lot of
yeah,
a
if
lot
you're-
of countries practiced and actively believed mummification was a way to get into this afterlife and everything.
Well, and it's still something that happens today. Because I mean, unless somebody's fermented, they are embalmed.
Fermented. Oh well, yeah, like preserved
Not
in whatever.
sorry, not fermented. What is the
preserved in formaldehyde.
burn them to ash. What is that called?
Cremated.
Cremation. Yeah, cremation. Completely different. Honestly.
One is the beginning of life and one is the end.
Well, and technically mummification could be considered fermentation, but that's not true.
I hope not.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, you fermented in your mom's belly for 9 months.
that's a gray area of discussion, but I used the incorrect word there. Unless you're cremated or unless somebody goes through cremation, they are embalmed and preserved so that, as to not physically rot. And which, I mean, obviously there is some amount of natural rotting, but so you
Well,
won't
yeah.
rot in your own casket. Then, I mean, even like frogs for biology classes are technically mummified.
Yeah,
that
in a way.
purpose.
I mean,
So-
yeah. Otherwise, they'd look like embalmed corpses. Literally, it's just that was what the cool thing to me was about. It's just like that. Literally, like Halloween's about like all this spooky undead stuff, and like mummy literally comes from a word that means embalmed corpse. Like,
One thing I want to ask though about this, we can all agree, yes, mummies existed. I would like
yes.
to know when did mummies start becoming a monster rather than just another funeral kind of thing? Because we're talking about these are the monsters that plague our earth, that plague human society.
well, I was gonna say the first movie. The first movie that Brendan Fraser did about the titular creature. But that probably isn't the case. I would say maybe sometime, because I know they did a lot of like early horror movies in like the 30s, 40s, 50s when film was a new concept. So probably some point in the mid 1900s, if I had to guess. I didn't look into that specifically,
I mean,
but
I didn't expect like actual like
Yeah.
year. I was just curious. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't expect an answer from you either.
Yeah, I would probably estimate sometime in early-ish black and white film, anything like that, because a lot of the first movies were silent, like horror movies, like Nosferatu, which, albeit, is about a creature that we didn't choose. I believe he was a vampire, right?
Yeah, nobody's chosen vampire.
That's right. So, yeah, a lot of the first like horror movies were just about like these old time creatures that have been known throughout the centuries of human existence on Earth. So,
Yeah.
if I had to estimate, probably, I'll just say probably like 50s or 60s, maybe.
Oh, and Josh, I didn't know if you knew this, but actually, you and Kyle have your monsters share a similarity. Mummies, they get their brains like removed from their nose, like pierce like the skull and let it drip out. To fight inner demons in early history, when medical advancements were made, lobotomies were performed
I was about to say, I'm
to
like, he's
fight
going
the
this way.
demons by attacking the brain. Just want to let you know that.
There's actually
All right.
There's actually kind of
I am aware that that's
I'm just
One
letting you know,
way.
for the inner demons, if that's the way you want to look at it.
yeah, and also exorcisms, but for inner demons that were
Exorcisms, that's
showing
fun.
outer. I mean, it's always a good time.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was planning on hosting an exorcism
Yeah,
a few days from now,
but
just
then
I was
just
going to
to
be the
celebrate the month.
exerciser.
to celebrate the month.
Actually, I kind of on that topic for those of you, including the audience, who have seen the movie Grave Encounters. It centers around a mental hospital whose main doctor was Dr. Arthur Freakin, who performed lobotomies on these crazed patients to try and like free them from whatever. So I just wanted to add to that. I thought that was kind of cool.
Perfect. The spooky month has the spooky science.
Hey Nate, what do you
Yo.
want to tell us about witches, buddy?
I mean, what do you want to
He's
know?
already told
Well,
some things about witches.
Yeah. What are you interested to know?
Your opinion on the Blair Witch Project.
Ooh.
Yes,
I genuinely do not know what the Blair Witch Project is.
that's a movie, dog.
All right, we will educate him later in the month on that.
Or he just didn't do his research.
Do you know? I guess obviously beyond like the Salem witch trials, what early accounts are there of witches?
So the first recorded one is, like I said, is roughly 700 or 900 to 700 BC in the Bible in 1 Samuel, which is when that book of the Bible was estimated to have been written. Then you have in the 1500s to early to mid 1600s. In Europe, there was an estimated 80,000 women who were burned at the stake because they were tortured into admitting that they did demonic acts, which is what kind of started the spread of witches throughout Europe and into America.
So, how does these historical representations of witches, how does that play into our understanding of what they are nowadays?
So witches nowadays, often seen in movies and literature and stuff like that. For example, if we just do a very simple example, Cinderella, right? You have a witch who curses the apple. That one's Cinderella. Or
That's
no, that's
Sleeping
Sleeping
Beauty.
Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty.
Okay, whichever.
Well, it curses the apple as Snow White, but sure, you guys can sit down.
Snow White.
Yeah, never mind.
Okay, so there's depictions like that where it's someone who uses, typically in current culture, probably a pot of some sort to brew different herbs and items and animals to create these potions and spells. Right?
Would you say this is similar to a cauldron?
Yes, cauldron, whatever.
A black cauldron.
Yes,
Dude, underrated Disney film.
great
that-
movie.
Yes, I love it.
Well, horrible movie that was shafted by its own producers. But anyways, continue.
I love the movie.
Same.
I enjoyed what it could have been.
But basically, that is kind of the modern depiction. Historically, they didn't necessarily have a cauldron or anything like that. They were actually originally thought to be healers, who used herbs and things like that to actually cure sicknesses and diseases that most people thought were incurable, and were then thought to be using witchcraft or worshiping devils in order to heal these people and these diseases, and therefore were then burned at the stake.
So would you say, I guess, which is they were probably using what is presumed to be nowadays science?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the modern day,
You just call them doctors.
Well, actually, in
Well,
modern day
witch doctors.
witches are a little different. So there's a difference between what was originally thought to be witches in the 1600s in Europe versus what a witch doctor or a shaman or a what's the thing where like you have the doll and the needle and
Voodoo.
That's
voodoo,
voodoo,
yeah,
yeah.
voodoo, yeah,
which is popular in the French Quarter.
yeah. So like that type of witchcraft has evolved from what original witchcraft was thought to be in most cases. And that witchcraft is more along the spiritual line of using the earth's own powers to communicate with spirits and the dead and that type of thing, which is very, very different to what witches were originally thought to be.
All right. Makes sense to me.
Now I do have to ask. It is this month of October.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to watch a horror movie, which one of these three would you be the most scared of? This doesn't actually relate too much to the topic at hand. But
Well, it is the month of October, so it is only fitting.
yeah, we should definitely.
I mean,
Are there specific movies that you want to present that would represent each one of these?
ooh, that's
in,
actually
in light of that question, or are you just saying like
letting
a
us use our
movie
imagination?
representation of
just
it?
run with
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Okay.
movie representation. Like you
Just-
can kind of give an idea. Because like I understand like demons is broad, so you can give an idea of what you mean, like what kind of movie that would be.
I
Well,
think
and there are a lot of movies
I think
about stuff like
personally,
demons.
for me, the potential of demons is scarier than witches and
Yeah.
mummies.
Just because they have supernatural powers that could not only be shared with witches, but like could be essentially limitless. Like
Realistically, all three of these options in pop culture have supernatural powers.
Yeah.
I will say the
Right.
difference is the portrayal between demons and witches to mummies, right? Mummies are not, they're a historical concept that aren't really ever portrayed to have actually come to life in history.
they're essentially to me is like a special kind of zombie in a way. Which zombies are scary, but you can kill a zombie.
Yeah, but mummies, I personally, I didn't do research into mummies. I don't know any better, but I don't feel like there are any historical accounts of like mummies coming to life. Whereas like
Not to my knowledge
witchcraft and demons, there are plenty of historical accounts of both options having happened and affected people.
So, and the problem with all of these is because, I mean, they have been depicted in media in certain ways.
Yep.
The historical accounts of it are with demons. It's the exorcisms and the personal struggles that we go through every day. Of especially for Christians that believe that there is somebody that is constantly tempting them. But then with witches, it's the history of the witch trials in Europe and the Americas and things like that.
Yep.
And realistically, just all over the world, because there have been some form of witchcraft that has been questioned everywhere.
Yep.
With mummies, I do think one of the specific examples is when they excavated. So it's not necessarily when the mummies were created,
Yeah.
but it's the excavation of those tombs where we were trying to gather information about them. And I think one of the most common is the curse of Tutankhamun.
Yeah, and
where
all the
where there
researchers
were
died.
there were just certain, and it's unknown if it was just mistakes on the way that they excavated,
Actually,
or if it.
it's pretty well known. Actually, there were bugs that had carried diseases inside the tombs, which are actually what caused most of those researchers.
They were
to
actually
die.
imbued with supernatural powers from King Tut.
Shut up. But yeah, most of the people that actually died had bug bites, and when they were later,
Recovered?
Autopsy. Autopsy, yeah. Autopsies revealed that there were diseases that had been encased in those bugs in the tombs for centuries that were released when the tomb was opened.
All right, well, that answers that question. I guess there's no curse of King Tutankhamun.
No, but a lot of
It's
people
nice to
thought there
believe,
was for a
though.
very
But
long
that is
time.
well, and that is one of the things that led to the myths about mummies,
Yeah.
and because mummification, and we've already discussed this, mummification is something that has happened and does continue to happen to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whether it's as barbaric a process or as exclusive a process as it used to be,
Yeah.
I really don't think it is. But it is something that did happen, and the myths that come about it are still based off of that. I think the excavation of those sites and the fact that everybody did kind of immediately die shortly after,
Yeah.
whether that can be explained with science or if you want to call it witchcraft. I think
It's a curse.
I think that realistically is the
by
only
witches.
Yeah.
So I win.
Yep, because that's the bar we're trying to set.
But what else? You got more questions?
I don't have any more questions.
Well, I
right
don't
now.
think. Did we ever actually answer your question?
Oh, I was just.
I did. I'm saying demons. I would not want to.
I'll say
I would not
demons
want,
as well.
Yeah, I would not want.
Okay,
to,
are you giving us? Are we giving specific movies?
I mean, you don't have to.
I was okay. That
Okay,
was
yeah.
that was my.
Oh,
my
I'm sorry.
That was my rebuttal question. Are you
Yeah.
providing movies that we would not want to, or like?
I'm using my imagination to, of the three monsters, what movie would I least want to watch or would probably scare me the most? I'm saying demons.
Okay, and I think
Same.
part of that comes from the fact that it's so abstract. Of it can realistically could be anything,
Yeah.
and it could at the very least just be okay. It's somebody with like a mental illness that you're attributing to a demon,
Yeah.
and it's that we don't know.
Yeah, I feel like the demon side of it is basically just the big fear of the unknown
Yeah.
kind of thing. Where it's like mummies is like, oh, a mummy's gonna get up and it'll curse us, or like witches is like, oh, they're gonna practice witch and curse me, or like stuff
Yeah.
like that. Or demons is like whatever the darkest things you can kind of think of could be what a demon is.
Yep.
Well, and I think it's good that you said that, because I think that's one of the biggest things that people attribute to demons and have throughout history is that it's basically anything that somebody does wrong or does evil in themselves, they have just attributed to being possessed by a demon or having inner demons or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's like all of these go back in history, definitely.
Yeah, they
Just
do.
Which one is the most historical?
Wow. That's
That's a question. Well, actually, the real question is, which one of you is lying?
yeah.
Which one of you hasn't done
Nope.
their research into this?
Nope.
I'm trying to think of questions because I have no clue who it is at this point.
I don't really have any questions either. I mean, I can't think of anything really off the top of my head. These are all really old creatures, and there's probably a lot of like accounts and everything and whatnot. So
Or like folk tales that involve
yeah,
them?
mm-hmm.
Because I think that's the biggest way the monster spread is just, oh, I saw this thing over there. it
Well,
was rising from the ground.
so we've talked about
flames shooting up everywhere.
Actually, I have a decent question.
Hi.
What is like? I'm asking
Sure.
specifically you, Kyle. Sorry. Did you have some?
I mean, you can ask yours and I'll ask mine after, but
Okay.
also I had a decent question.
Oh, I apologize for interrupting you. I'm gonna go first though. Kyle.
Hi.
So is there one singular catalyst that you know of that might have catapulted this whole lore behind mummyism and what has turned it into the cultural Halloween monster that it is today?
King Tut.
Okay. Josh?
I would answer that probably by saying more specifically the excavation of the tomb of King Tut.
Well,
But
We understood that.
Wait. Are you asking him about mummies or
No,
is it?
I'm asking him
I'm
about
answering-
demons.
he's asking me.
Okay, I was gonna
Demons,
say, I don't think he did.
sorry.
Either way, I don't think he did research into mummies.
Yeah. Josh, demons?
so what was the question again?
What is the catalyst that kind of pushed demonism or demons or whatever into a cultural monster that would be feared or talked about or displayed during Halloween?
So realistically, I think it is the kind of ambiguity and the fact that it applies to a lot of different things. Like even witches are said to get their powers from contracts that they made with demons, and I don't necessarily know that there's one thing that I can attribute it to other than that, the ambiguity of the fact that we don't know. You know, it goes back to that kind of timeless argument of, you know, does hell exist, or is there an afterlife where we will be punished for things that we do? And the people that are trying to tempt us into stepping into that bear trap, and kind of what that is, it's a combination of the fear of the unknown and having a scapegoat for the evil things that we naturally choose to do.
Yeah.
What about you? How would you answer that question for yourself?
The answers actually can be pointed to actual pieces of literature written about the Salem witch trials and the fear of Christians of witches, and
The
how
fear Christians had towards witches?
Yeah,
Okay.
the fear Christians had towards witches, and the fact that they believed that it to be the farthest thing from Christ.
Okay. So more like the more modern secular society, or sorry, like, yeah, the society that was breaking away from the religion conformed around them.
Yes.
Well,
Not even breaking away,
were-
but trying things
it's
that could be
being
seen outside of Christianity.
Yeah,
would be the scariness.
Basically, there's a lot of literature written about specifically the Salem witch trials in America that talks about how they were innocent people that were pushed into admitting things that weren't actually true because they were tortured, and then they were all burned. And so culture, a lot of pop culture, television shows and stuff actually hooked onto this literature that talked about how it was unfair and was not right. And they turned it into this thing for media that talks about how, like, witches weren't this awful, scary thing necessarily. Some witches, you know, just worshipped the earth and the power that the earth gave them. And some just were herbal people who use herbs to heal and, you know, this other thing. And then it kind of gradually evolved from that. And there were different types of witches that were then portrayed in culture.
so how do witches differentiate from like holistic healers?
I don't think that wasn't something that really has happened until modern media. A lot of television shows and things like Dungeons and Dragons and you know, old television shows, movies, novels talk about, you know, are very fantasy centric, and this whole fantasy culture almost has kind of become more popular, where we've been able to differentiate this idea that witches weren't, that there's multiple kinds of witches, that not all witches were evil per se. Some go by different names. Like, we use witch to kind of encompass shamans and healers, and, you know, we already said voodoo, and, you know, those all different types of witchcraft. But that is really something that has been historically pulled from different cultures and shared through literature.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does, and I think that answer also answered kind of my follow-up question about warlocks, of just that we've used the term witch, which is historically female,
Yes.
in connotation, to really encompass just anything that involves any kind of witchcraft, and I guess warlock to be the male version of anybody who has made a contract with a demon or deals with spiritual lines or okay. So in the, because there are Christian contexts for holistic healers, and believing that, and the difference between witchcraft and holistic healing.
Kind of, yes.
Well, no. So there is, even in like Mormon tradition, there is a difference between a traditional hospital and holistic healing, of knowing that these specific herbs or praying to God will do, certain acts of healing.
Yeah.
And how do you differentiate? And this might be an argument for, Elphaba versus Galinda, the Good Witch.
Yeah.
But how do you, like, is there a differentiation between that in in your mind?
I mean, yes, there is. There absolutely is. And I think a lot of that has to do with nowadays a lot of people actually understanding the science behind things and things getting away from straight spiritualism, I guess, is a way to put it. So nowadays, for example, someone who is an essential oils user, who uses peppermint and frankincense and thieves and
I thought you were about to say Frankenstein. I'm sorry.
and thieves oil and things like that, which have healing properties, probably would have been considered witches in the 15 and 1600s. Whereas now, that is people who are using these herbs based off of the science that they are an inflammatory, that they can help swelling, they can clear up your nostrils so that you can smell better, that, you know, they just have actual scientific reasons for the effects that they have on the human body, versus shamans and people who worship spirits and do dances and might use herbs while praying to demons to have these effects. There's a difference between that now, culturally. However, that would not have been distinguished in the 15 and 1600s. So back then, someone who uses, let's just say peppermint, because it's a natural plant. If you use peppermint leaves, because you have a sinus infection, right? It can help clear up your nostrils, allow you to smell, and kind of clear your throat a little bit. Back then, that probably was considered by some as witchcraft. Now, it's not. However, if you were to take a peppermint plant and pray to a demon and claim that it has other effects other than what is scientifically proven, someone would probably consider you to be a witch and claim you're a witch. Does that answer your question?
Kind of. I believe so. Also, for the sake of transparency, peppermint also is known to settle the stomach.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason that it's given out as a treat at the end of a meal at a restaurant.
Yeah.
So it's given also as just a breath mint to just make sure that the rest of your night is not disturbed by your meal, but it also settles your stomach and allows you to continue with the rest of your night.
That's why you get them at Sonic, because Sonic is greasy as all get out, and it's not going to settle well with your stomach, so they give you peppermints.
Could you imagine if they had
or they'll give you
Pepto-Bismol
like a chocolate mint or something like that. But
at Olive Garden.
Could you imagine if they had like
The
Pepto-Bismol back then?
Classic examples.
Oh yeah, the perfect examples.
Yeah.
Imagine Pepto back in the days of like more actual like witches. That'd be
Yeah,
crazy.
Or just any
Pepto-Mint.
single like pharmaceutical drug.
Yeah.
If you try to throw that in the days when like Salem witch trials were going
This
on.
woman
Yeah.
kid bought flu.
No, it's not
Well,
gonna
I
happen.
mean, realistically, there were a bunch of scientists that were persecuted for the research that they were doing.
Yeah.
This woman cured my flu.
I mean,
Kill her.
alchemy, right? Alchemy is an entire. Really, alchemy is modern physics.
Yeah, it's modern physics and it's modern
medicine.
What?
No, alchemy is not medicine.
Well, alchemy can be used for medicine, but realistically, what it is,
it's physics and chemistry.
yes.
And
chemistry
that's-
goes into
That's,
medicine.
that's
But
the
back-
word I was looking for.
Yeah.
But they just kind of tied them into that.
Yeah.
Alchemy historically and in a broad spectrum, the goal of alchemy was to figure out some way to change like common iron into gold.
So
Yeah.
basically it's chemistry.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
it
just-
was
physics.
I would
and
say it's-
chemistry.
I-
You have
People
to
get
change the-
persecuted for
No,
it
that's
because it
chemistry.
is a science. Like
It's
I would say
physics and
it's-
chemistry because you're changing the
it's
actual
more
property
chemistry
of
than
the
physics,
atoms.
but it's
Moving
more
on.
chemistry than physics, but it is
no, actually
it is
it's not.
science.
It would be more chemistry if it involved mixing different materials, but that's not what alchemy was. Alchemy was taking one singular material and changing its property to become a new material, which is physics.
But that's a chemical reaction.
Not necessarily.
Technically, this whole argument is kind of he's not wrong.
Chalk that up for the swear jar.
Yeah, that's one. alchemy is a blend of chemistry and physics, and depending on what it is that you're trying to change into whatever, it is kind of a fluid blend of the two.
Yes.
So
All right, fair enough.
my argument that it's more chemistry and his argument that it's more physics honestly depends on the circumstance. Realistically, alchemy is not necessarily, it is based on science, but it has not been scientifically proven by the scientific method, and therefore is not technically a true science.
Yep.
All right, fair enough. I'll allow it.
Yes.
Yeah. There it is. Which is why I said that one base point is kind of out the window, because one isn't relevant to what we're talking about, and two is kind of we're both right.
Yeah.
So moving on.
Yeah, we're digressing. Do you guys have more questions? I think I know who I want to guess.
I'm ready to guess.
I'm ready.
Everyone
Are
ready?
you ready,
Are you ready
Josh?
to guess, or do you have more questions?
Do you want to ask me anything, Josh?
Teddy, if you were to point to,
If I was to finger someone?
no, I'll ask that in a second when we ask for the vote.
Oh, okay.
What is one movie that you think portrays, based on the way that we've argued it, what is one movie that points to one of the monsters that we've talked about, that you would want to see made?
That I would want to see made.
Yeah, that hasn't been
so
that
I'm
hasn't been made
describing
yet.
a movie. Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Just pitch us elevator pitch us a movie for one of these monsters, based on our arguments.
The problem is like in my head, the perfect movie that came up involved two of your monsters. Can I just mention that one real
Yeah,
quick?
go for it.
Okay.
Sure.
It's not like perfect, but it's like probably like a young adult one or like teens, because those are the only people you can have in like horror movies, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's
That will sell. Sure.
yeah, that will sell.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was thinking of like an old witch, and she is the one who is mad about something, I don't know, and she curses the people, and then that's when the demon comes in. Now the thing is like, as I said earlier, I think the scariest thing about a demon is the fear of the unknown, so it can attack each person differently depending on how they, like what they're most afraid of in that situation. Like they're in a dark room, like if you're in a dark room, you start imagining things. It is basically their own mind working against them because of the curse.
I like that. So it's primarily revolving around the demon, with the witch as the catalyst to bring the demon.
Yeah. It's like the witch is the... Yeah, I'm sorry, Kyle.
Bruh.
For Halloween in the spooky month, I don't find mummies that scary.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
No, I think I might feel differently. Genuinely, I thought when I was younger, I kind of wanted to be an archaeologist.
Who didn't?
And yeah, true. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go explore this, this tomb, and then you just read stories, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but actually being in a tomb would be kind of scary. My mind would wander. I don't know if I'd want to do that, but I would not.
You just knock something over, and all of a sudden you're just screwed.
Well,
that's it. Like you have bad luck for the rest of your life.
That's a very
until you die.
specific situation in which I would be afraid of a mummy. I can be afraid of demons and witches at any point in my life.
Well, I think that kind of feeds in... no, not even that. I think the problem with mummies for me is the fact that it's more of the fear of death and becoming like the mummy in that situation, rather than it being like not exactly sure what's going to happen. Like if a witch is against you, you don't know if she's going to kill you or she doesn't know. You don't know if she's going to like curse you where you're screwed for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just
No, I
quite
think
interesting.
an example of a movie that I think portrays demons really well, and I know the name is going to be a little bit conflicting. It's called Devil. But it's about a group of people in an elevator, and they...
Wait,
You all right there, Chief?
Why is that name conflicting?
Because the devil is a specific, technically angel, from historical
Technically
context.
angel, but also in most historical context, specifically Christianity is what we're referring to.
Yes.
The devil is king over the demons.
Yes,
So
I was just the reason I thought it might be conflicting is because he is an angel who is king of the demons, however, not actually a demon himself. That is the only reason that I thought it would be conflicting, but also I understand your laughter at thinking that's conflicting.
I got you.
But it's about a group of people in an elevator, and there's one of them that is possessed by a demon or the devil. And it's just it's literally, it's like 8 people that is the entire cast pretty much. And they're just trying to survive without being killed off one by one.
Actually, I feel like I remember seeing trailers for that, but
It came out in the early
2009, 2010.
Do I have
I think it
permission
was
to look
somewhere in
up-
that area.
Do
Yeah.
I have permission to look
I
up?
honestly
this
did
movie?
not look that up. but
We'll worry about it later.
Okay, that's fine.
We've digressed away from the topic pretty heavily. Is there any final comments?
well, is there
questions?
everybody else? Is there, just out of curiosity, is there one movie that you would recommend that would showcase your monster well?
The Mummy.
All right, I agree with you.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong.
I love Brendan Fraser, so yeah.
Same. He's awesome.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't watch a ton of like Halloween monster-based movies, which I do want to change this year. I'm gonna change this year.
Yeah, he's never
But,
seen the Blair Witch
we'll do
Project.
that.
I've watched a lot more television shows based around.
I'd
this
probably
thing.
say Blair Witch.
So, can I do a television show?
Go for it.
I don't care.
Okay.
I'll just say yeah.
If
why
it's
not?
Vampire Diaries, I'm gonna slap you when we're done
It's
recording.
not.
But
It's not. It's the sequel, the originals.
All right, never mind. Okay.
honestly, it does a much better job of portraying witches. But
right?
I. Jesus Christ!
All right.
All right.
I do
to.
want to say real quick. Actually, if you guys want to go start writing down your votes, and I can talk for a second.
Yeah, let's do it.
I
Yeah, sure.
would definitely recommend this Halloween, if you have the chance, to watch Oculus. It is. It was on Netflix a while ago. I watched it a couple years, and it's not like a high budget film. I'm not gonna lie. It's not gonna like the acting's not gonna be great. It's just the concept.
It's about a spooky mirror or something that
Yeah.
like has some evil entity in it or something or whatever.
Yeah. And basically the whole time, well,
It distorts reality or
yeah,
something.
no, the
isn't
whole
it?
time you have to question reality, like what in it is real, what's not real.
I've seen synopsis videos on it, so I know pretty much what would happen, but I would still like to actually see everything play out.
I don't know if it's still on Netflix. I need to check. It's been a couple of years, so it
Yeah.
wouldn't surprise me.
I'll
if
check
it's
it
not.
out.
We should have a movie night and watch Oculus.
I'm done. All right. Y'all done writing?
Yep.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
gotta
Well, we
fold
will
mine up.
see you guys on Friday, where we will go ahead and reveal, who we voted for. Real quick though, I meant to do this last episode and I didn't. I'm gonna go ahead and reveal the name of the book we're doing next month. If you want to be reading along, we're doing the book Ikigai. It is a book on the secret to a long and happy life. It's a Japanese proverb. It's a very interesting book that I have a lot of mixed feelings about. So, but we'll talk about that next month. See you Friday.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Well, that's it for today's episode. Be sure to join us on the next episode where we will continue to debate as good friends do. Follow us on Instagram and YouTube and stay up to date on all things asshat, and to participate in polls and activities throughout the week based on the themes of the upcoming episodes.
We also started a Patreon for those of you who are interested in showing your support in a more direct way. On our Patreon, we have a ton of bonus content, including tier lists, loser dinners, and bonus podcast episodes.
We want to continue making content that makes you think, smile, and especially laugh. And the best way that you guys can help us do that, leave a like or a comment, download and share all these episodes with your friends and family members who you think would enjoy our tomfoolery, our shenanigans, and all those other crazy words that encapsulate our content.